All right. So again, I just want to say welcome to everyone that's on this call. We're grateful that you're here. And today we're going to talk about the four elements of creation, which are question, choice, possibility, and contribution. And you probably heard me like spiel this already, but these are the access consciousness specialty facilitators, some of them. I'm like terrible at numbers. I know we have a lot of access consciousness specialty facilitators. I don't know the exact number. This is a sprinkling of them. This is like a sample of them, but there's a whole bunch of them. And they facilitate classes on all kinds of topics. So basically look at whatever's in your life, whether it's your body, your relationships, parenting, dealing with animals, dealing with money, dealing with business. These guys facilitate classes on those topics. And we brought them together today just to have a conversation about creation and creation from a different place than what we're taught. So most of us growing up, I would say we were taught that it was really important to follow the rules of this reality. There's certain rules. There's a way you do things. There's a way you don't do things. And it's really important that you learn those rules and that you get it right and you don't get it wrong. So is that like familiar to any panelists? It's like, here's how you do it. And probably most important is right answer. Don't get it wrong, get it right. And I remember I was in first grade. And, in my little free-spirited world, life was wonderful. Everything was happy. And we had a spelling test every week. And my point of view at the time was, you know what, it doesn't matter if I miss the words on the spelling test. When the spelling test is done, if I miss all of the words, the teacher just says, go sit down and write the words you missed 5 times. By the time I finish writing my words 5 times, I know how to spell it. What's the problem, right? My head, this worked just perfectly fine. So we're in class one day, we just took the spelling test. And of course I missed probably half of them. And she goes up to the front of the room to this star chart that honestly, I never even noticed, never saw it, didn't know it existed. And she stands in front of the class and she runs her finger down the names. And she looks at me and she goes, isn't it interesting that everybody in this class except for you has a star by their name? And the way you got stars was when you took the test, if you got them all right the first time, then you got to put up a star. So she said, I wonder when you're going to get it right. I wonder when you're going to pass the first time, not miss any words and get us to put a star by your name. And in that moment, I stood there and I turned in my point of view, which was, it's no big deal. I'm learning it. I'll learn it the way that I learn it. I'll do it the way that I do it. I turned in that point of view to her point of view, which was get it right, be perfect. It's about gold stars. And I know that's like one little example, but I so took that and I built many years of my life on having the right answer, being perfect, getting gold stars. And I was really, really, really good at it. And I was also exhausted and I hated my life. So then along comes access consciousness. And I hear this whole new thing of, what if it's not about the right answer? What if it's about asking questions? What if it's not about being right, but actually being willing to be wrong? And it's like, whoa, my whole world went, are you kidding me? So anyway, I learned, and it took me a minute to go, really, I can let go of this. I can navigate my life in a different way. I can create my life from a different space. And as I started to play with the tools that I was given, I actually found that life could be fun, that there was this whole space of creation that was so joyful and so easy and actually gave me everything that I desired in life. So that's sort of the kickoff to turning it over to all of these beautiful people about creating our lives from that different space of like moving beyond the right and the wrong and trying to do it perfectly, moving beyond having to follow the rules and actually being in the space of question and choice and possibility and receiving contribution. So I would love to kick it off with starting with the first element of creation, which is question. So would anybody like to just jump in with, what do you know about asking questions? What questions do you like to ask? And how is moving from having to have answers to asking questions change things for you? And if anybody just wants to pop, go, just raise that go.
Yeah, I honestly, when I first started working with Access and using the tools, asking a question was the hardest thing for me ever. I was actually made wrong for asking questions. I mean, not just like I thought they made me wrong. It was repeatedly, you can't ask questions, you're just causing trouble. And so the very first Access class I went to, and they're like, are you willing to ask questions? I went, no. Because I was literally taught if I was asking a question, I was causing trouble. And so it was interesting to see how much I had lived my life from desperately trying to find that right answer without asking a question. And it's just like, just tell me what the answer is so I know what it is, and I don't have to ask a question. I don't have to see anything else. And so now it's truly fun. You know, Access talks about asking the questions opens doors to possibilities. And it is so true now. And I also realized that all the people who were telling me, don't ask questions, don't cause trouble, were actually scared themselves of getting in trouble. And me asking the question was rocking their world. Whereas I was just going, what else is in the universe? And what can we create? And how much fun can we have? And how can we explore this? And they were like, no. So truly, for me, asking a question was the hardest step I had to do when I first started. And now it's the funnest thing to be able to actually explore with different people about like what else is truly possible, but just explore the universe, whether it's inside us or outside.
So can I ask, how did you move from that like paralyzed of being afraid to get in trouble to actually, was it just I'm going to do it, I'm going to take the leap? How did you move from that?
I started with small questions. It was funny because literally my very first facilitator, which I brilliantly created, was Dr. Dane here. And he's like, hey, would you guys be willing to ask questions? I went, no. And he just kind of laughed and he used the clearance statement. He's like, okay, shall we try this again? Would you be willing to ask questions? I'm like, no. And he's like, well, okay, how about, I started with little things like, where would I like to sit in the room? I wasn't even talking to my body at that point. It was literally just like, where would I like to sit in the room? Or where would I want to sit in the restaurant? Or what pen would I like to write with? I mean, literally, I was that paralyzing that I wasn't even asking questions of like, what color ink should I use? And so it sounds funny, but you start where you are. I started with little questions. And then as I didn't get in trouble, and I was actually like, oh, you mean there's blue ink, black ink, purple ink, red ink? Oh, red isn't just for marking me wrong, or, or, fuchsia. And there's all this it's once I started realizing what questions exposed me to and that I didn't get in trouble, is I started asking more, I don't even say in-depth questions, because if you were never asking a question, what color do you want to write with, is actually a big question.
Yeah.
Because it was really a question for the first time in my life.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else want to talk about that? Yes, Marja, go for it.
Hi. Thank you. Thank you, Danielle, for that, what you said, because that was actually the similar thing for me. I actually was all about asking questions all the time, and I was asking questions that also made people uncomfortable a lot. And from that, I also gathered, because always I got the awareness of everyone's uncomfortableness, uncomfort, and well, also they got angry at me a lot of times, and that's why I actually not just that I didn't that I stopped asking questions. It was like I didn't say anything anymore. Like I was always the one that was asking questions. They were like, oh, you always like talking and you're getting on my nerves. And I was just starting to go down and didn't actually have a voice anymore, because for me, I was being the question all the time. I was always wondering, what else is possible? Where can we go now? What can we create? What else, what magic is there in the world? And everywhere, I was just wondering about everything, like even in college, even in school. And it was actually, every time I asked a question, everyone was like, or uncomfortable, or like, why are you asking questions? Why do you want to know things? Why are you making us uncomfortable? Or maybe people didn't even know how to answer that, because that's also the thing. people don't know how to answer your questions if they're actually questions, if they're not statements with question marks attached. So yeah, thank you as well.
Yes, thank you. So anybody else, what do you know about asking questions? What's it changed? Elena.
For me, it was very funny because I was always using these questions without an answer. And in my family, there was this special question that they used to answer me with, which was something I asked someday when I was small, like, why are the rainbow colors always in the same order? So every time I had a question that they could not answer, they just answered back at me like, and why are the rainbow colors at the same order? To say like, shut up, you're being impertinent. So it's like you get used to stop wondering because you're being intrusive. But when you start actually asking these things for yourself with this really wondering about not only the why, but how does that can change, how does that can work, it's when you start being surprised. Like getting into Access for me was a surprise. Like I had been very intellectual, of course, and thinking my brain was everything I have. And then coming into Access and learning that is not the case, it was such a surprise. And having this enthusiasm for surprise has really changed my life, being in Access. And now I know why the colors in the rainbow are always in the same order, but I can also get some other questions that have no answer, like how does it get any better than this?
Yes, and I love that you brought that up, because when the questions we are taught to ask is to ask the question looking for the answer. And that's what's different about what we're talking about, is it's asking the question and never, ever, ever looking for the answer. So why would you ask the question? You're asking because when you ask, what you're actually saying is, I've decided this, this, and this. I've concluded this, this, and this, but I'm willing to wonder if maybe that's not true. I'm willing to wonder if maybe there's something else I haven't considered. I'm willing to let go of the things that I've really solidified and just go to the possibility that there's something else. So would anybody like to talk a little bit more about asking questions from the space of not looking for the answer and what that's created in your world?
Yeah. I don't know if my internet is good enough. I'm in the countryside in Austria.
You sound
great.
What
would it take for the internet to work? So, like what I found when I started to ask questions is to find the right question. And so, like what I found for me is that there's actually no right question to ask. Like, what if you just start by asking any question, whatever you come up with, like, how does it get any better in this, and what else is possible? And like Marnie says, if you try to find an answer, like if you try to get it right by asking a question, you're like in this answer mode again. And like it's in the beginning, it seems so uncomfortable to ask a question without trying to find a result or without trying to get anywhere. It's like your brain goes, but why would we ask a question if it's not about getting an answer? And so it's really this new space where you just go, okay, I'm just gonna play. I'm just gonna try it out and see where it leads me. How does it get any better in this? What is possible with this situation that I haven't considered? We usually start using tools when we're in a very extreme situation, like, oh my God, let's say, your money situation doesn't look the way you desire it to look. And then usually, we're last minute changers and we go, oh my God, now it's like almost I can't pay my bills. Now I'm going to use a tool. And then we go to trying to create a result. But what if you start now, whether things are perfect or not, whether you have the money you desire or not, what if you just playfully start using the tools and go, hey, what is possible with this situation that I haven't considered? And then just practice going, okay, I don't need to have an answer right now. I don't need to have a picture. I don't need to visualize anything. Like, what I realized for me is that all of those things that you want to do, like visualize, like, okay, what is possible with this situation? And then you go, okay, I have to visualize. I have to know beforehand what it's going to look like. What I noticed, it's way too much work. So if you this is the moment when you can be totally lazy and just go, hey, universe, show me what's possible. And then allow yourself to be surprised by what shows up. And I must say, for me as a control freak, that was really a challenge.
If I could just
but if I can do it, I'm sure you can do it. So that's my contribution. Next person.
Thank you, Susanna. And I'm so happy that I was able to hear you, because that was great. Because one of the things that's been for me, it's actually been like there's been a joyful play that's shown up with questions. When it's not joyful and light for me to ask a question, I know that I'm attached to a result. So it's that play of being that 5-year-old again going, I wonder, like you would desire something and you're asking, what would it take? Who can I talk to? Where can I go? They said no, won't give me that chocolate. Who will? Who else? Where else? So it's that game of actually inviting everyone to contribute and not stopping. But it's like, how will it show up is like the mystery and the joy of it that I've really have enjoyed. So one of the questions that I really enjoyed asking early on was, if I choose this, what will my life be like in 5 years and 10 years? Because then it actually invited me to begin to acknowledge that I could perceive the energy, and it was outside of what I thought was going to be the immediate result. Because 5 years, 10 years, I didn't know how it was all going to play out. So that's been a really fun one for me. And the other part too, to questions, is that I love celebrating when things actualize. Like, oh my God, I did ask for that and look how it showed up. So again, it's this energy of like getting out of the significance of what we're asking for and how it's going to show up. Because like Dr. Jane said, it never shows up the way you think it's gonna. Like what, 99,000 million times? It never does. And so what would it be like to begin to ask questions for the joy of it, to see how it shows up?
You love that. So I'm just curious, since we have all of these facilitators from specific specialties, with regard to your specialty, so whether it's bodies, whether it's horses, whether it's parenting, whichever your specialty is, what are some of your favorite questions? So two-part question. What are some of your favorite questions to ask? And is there somewhere where you've used one of those questions and created an entirely different result than you had before asking the question? Who would like to go first? Lauren Marie.
Hi. So mine is easy because we are here for being you, and being you applies to everything. So one of my favorite things to do is ask if I was truly being me here, what would I choose? Or how would I be? Or, what question would I ask? Or how would I talk to this person? Or anything. Like if I was truly being me, fill in the blank. And what I've learned is I'm so aware of other people's realities and other people's way of functioning that I have to almost catch myself sometimes and ask that question in order to be more aware of what I know, rather than just go into the automatic response of like how my mom would answer this, or how my dad would react to this, or what they would choose, or what, my husband or my kids or anyone around me, my neighbors, and asking that question brings me back to the space of like, what's actually true for me.
Love it. Thank you.
Yeah.
So who's next?
I can go next. It's Lale.
Okay, Lale. Then Paulina, you're after Lale.
Okay, cool. For me, it's interesting, like curiosity and being playful has always been part of my life. Like I look at even before Access. And what I love about questions is it really brings it to a different space and lots of different options that you may have not even considered before. And so I remember growing up, my dad always said, you have to work hard to make money. And as much as I loved business, I loved working, I loved people, I realized how much I had made his reality of working hard my reality. But what was interesting is my dad always loved what he did. So it never felt like work. And for me, it didn't feel like work either. And with Right Riches, one of the things that we talk about is like, what if actually making money and having money didn't have to be hard? And really looking at ways that you can add richness to your life from the things that you actually enjoy being, enjoy doing, the things that you take for granted, that you do them so well. So I ask that question all the time. If making money could be fun and easy, what would I choose right now? And it always just brings me to what Lauren said, being you with whatever it is and not being in somebody else's world trying to create like them.
Cool. Paulina.
Okay, thanks. Well, I'm here for Right Body for You, and well, Right Body for You, it's all about including your body. You know, in everything you do, just asking questions to your body of what it requires, because you're not here by yourself. You have a teammate, which is your body. So being in the question with your body and what it requires is amazing, amazing tool. And you use it for everything, for what you want to eat, drink, be with, play, do, if you want to relax. So it's really nice to ask questions to your body, like, body, what do you require to eat? What do you need? But lately I've been asking also questions like the other way around, like asking my body to help me, the being, out in something. So for example, like, body, can you help me out with this headache? Can you help me fix this thing out, this ache I'm having in my knee or something like that? So using the question like back and forth, asking your body what it requires and asking your body to help you out in whatever you require has been working amazing with me. I've been doing alternative medicine for a while. And lately, just asking the body to heal or to change something that is not working out for you, it's also an amazing start point to start working with your body and asking questions, not only of what it requires, but what it can do for you. So that would be my contribution for Right Body for You.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Cool. So who is next? Elena.
So in Right Riches, there is one that I really love and that people don't use as often as they should, which is, can I have the money now? We get so excited creating and we love people changing, and then we forget about the money. So maybe we can just ask, can I have the money now? And that will give you something exciting to look after.
I like it.
If I can add for Joy of Business, it's interesting, and it kind of ties into some of the other specialties as well. But I've actually been looking at, something Simone Millison says is like, actually giving yourself an hour a day to actually choose what's fun for you, what's a contribution to you. And then if you're actually willing to be brave, give yourself one day out of the week. And for me, given that I love to create and people that know me, my laptop is with me all the time at all hours. And it really is this invitation to include me, to include my body, and know that that actually contributes to my business and expanding everything. So, what would I like to do fun for me in the next hour or for a full day is kind of been the challenge for me recently. But I'm loving that new just beginning to be in the question of what that would look like and be for me.
Cool. And before we jump to whoever's next, I just want to say, if like this is such a new conversation to you, like if you hear people say, ask your body, ask your money, ask your business, and you're going, what the hell are these people talking about? Just play with it. What if you were willing to just play? Sort of like Danielle started off with, she didn't want to ask a question because she didn't want to be wrong. So wherever this might be really new and really foreign, would you be willing just to pick something, even if it's small, that you go, okay, I could do that, and to just play with it? And would you also be willing to tap into the energy of this conversation when we are just talking about questions can you perceive the this sort of space rather than the this that we so often function in when we're trying to get it right and have the right answer? So just want to interject that in this conversation. So who is next?
I would love to say something if I might.
Yes.
You know, expanding the question also to the animal world, which was a concept that before I started Access, I was sort of always aware of animals and I was always sort of being around them, but I never thought that I could physically ask them a question. And in Conscious Horse, Conscious Rider, we do actually ask the horses questions. And as foreign as that might be, it really creates a huge difference the horse when for the first time in their life actually asking them. And so one of the things that is my favorite question also when a horse is in the class is to ask, hey, what is this? Like if there's an issue with the horse, what is this? Because the owners often have decided what it is and they come in already with the preconceived idea of this is what's wrong with my horse. This is what needs to be fixed. This is what's happening. But when you stand there and you just ask the horse, hey, what is this? There is always an energy that comes up. And even if you don't have words for it, you can perceive if that energy matches what the person is saying or if it's something else. And if it is something else, you can ask another question. Hey, can we change this? What is possible here? What is another way to look at this? So this is really a favorite thing of mine, to be able to now physically ask questions of animals. It's been amazing to work with that. So thank you so much for having this today too. And it's just so fun to listen to everybody and like all of your stories and everything. It's just amazing. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Susie. All right. Do we have an X-Men person that wants to say? Jenny.
Hi. Susie, thank you for that. I would have loved you to be in my life when I was a kid. That space of just asking the questions opens up so much for me. And it was something that was severely lacking for me as a kid. I used to go and sit in trees just to get away from people, because being around people, I had all of these thoughts in my head and questions getting thrown at me of what was right, what was wrong, what was good, what was bad. And I didn't know there was another way with the question. The question had to be right or the question had to be wrong, and the answer had to be right and the answer had to be wrong. And if I chose anywhere in between, then I was, in my mind, annihilated in a way with being told I was wrong. So the question when I joined Access, and like I trained in a whole load of different modalities, but when I joined Access and just having the choice to choose any way with the question opened up so much more. So my questions became, you know, what is it that I'm aware of, and what can I do with that? Can I change it? And if so, how? And these 4 questions, without giving it was right or wrong or fitted into this piece of the jigsaw or this piece of the jigsaw, just a space to be with that question and allow me to be in the world, a bit like what Lauren was saying, like being me, just opened up so much more for me. And it's something I use a lot of still to this day, like 4 years on of using these tools. And I just love Access for that it opens up so much space, and allowing me to be me in that space has opened up more possibilities and different things in the world too, for me and everybody else.
Yeah, thank you for that, Jenny, and for bringing up that what if you can't do it wrong? Like, what if you're not nearly as fucked up as you think you are? And what if you cannot get it wrong? If you really let those 2 things sink in, what would that actually change for your world? So who else? Glenna? I was like, you look like you want to say something.
Yeah, no, I was trying to unmute myself. Yes, I do. This is such an amazing conversation with these amazing facilitators. Wow. So I'm representing Conscious parents, conscious kids. And I want to talk a little bit about the questions with contribution, which is one of the 4 things we're talking about: question, choice, possibility, and contribution. And as a parent, this was a huge, huge change when I found the access work for me to actually be able to receive, or even the idea that I could receive a contribution from my family, from my children. Because I was a single mom and I was doing all the time and making all the money. And the idea that my kids could contribute to me was amazing. It opened up so many possibilities. And one of my favorite questions still is just say, what contribution can I be and receive from this person I've never considered or never imagined? And the magic that's opened up over the years. I remember there was a new mom that I had as a client who asked me, called me up for a phone session, I think, and baby, colicky, just crying all the time. She wasn't getting any sleep. And I just threw out this question. So what if you asked, what contribution can you be and receive from your baby you've never considered? And she was like, huh? Like, you don't, from a baby, they don't contribute. You just take care of them. And she called me back at like the next morning and was like, she fell asleep. My baby fell asleep and I got all this work done. And that was her contribution to me, and opened this huge door up to a possibility that because we don't, contribution isn't linear. It's not like you do this and you get paid that. And it's a totally different way of seeing how you can receive, because it can come from anywhere and places you've never imagined. And that's why adding something I had not considered or imagined onto the end of that question, what contribution can I be and receive, can get you out of that linear thought process of what you think could contribute or you think you should get from what you've done, into something where the whole universe and every molecule of the universe can contribute to you in ways.
That's amazing. Thank you. So who else? Do we have anybody that would like to say a question with regards to right voice, having your voice in the world? I know there's a few of you on here. You might not have come on for that specialty, but you're here.
I didn't come on for right voice, but I'm happy to voice it.
Go for it. Do it.
So yeah, one of the questions there's so many questions, and all these questions obviously with right voice is because it's about having your voice in the world. So you can look at like if I was actually willing to speak up, what would I say? And the other thing I always like to look at is where are you actually speaking up, or what is your voice in your world that you're not acknowledging? Because many times we actually are expressing ourselves, or we actually do have a voice, but we've considered that it's not, oh, these things I do that I have fun with, that's not a voice, or that's not an expression in the world. They're just worthless. And then we write them off. But if you're actually willing to ask that question, you can start acknowledging and seeing where you do have a voice in the world and where you are actually, expressing yourself.
I love that. Can I add something to that? That's so cool. Right voice for you is such a gift. So what often happens when people make the choice to start having their voice in the world and be on the stage, or just have a talk with someone, or just like open up for that, they create that point of view that I'm afraid or I'm nervous, and invent all these labels because they're normal. We're supposed to be nervous, we're supposed to be afraid. It's all like, normal things. And what if it's not? And we, like, in those moments, usually we stop asking questions in favor of, difficulties, troubles, problems. And what I love to ask myself and invite other people to ask when it's, a situation when you think, oh my God, I can't handle that, or I'm too afraid, or I'm too nervous, I could never speak up and have my voice in the world. And you think you're afraid, if you ask the thing that I call fear, what is it truly? And so often we misapply and misidentify those symptoms in the body, like, the heart is beating, you're sweating, trembling, and you think that must be fear. And you stop asking a question. Hey, the thing I call fear, that trembling, the sweating, what is it truly? And every single time that people, ask that question, in those classes, the Right Voice for You classes, to discover what it truly is, which is something totally different, which is something that's not normal on our planet yet. We're making it not be. Being grateful, like having this living energy of being so happy and so joyful of standing in front of people and being, making the choice of being heard and having your voice in the world. You're supposed to be afraid because that's normal. And as long as you want to be normal, you create that thing that's called fear. But if you go beyond being normal and go, I love, being heard. I love to have my voice in the world. And then, acknowledgement of your value, that is open up a totally different space for you.
I love that. And, we're talking about creating our life from a different place, from question and choice and possibility and contribution. And what you just said, Susanna, is we do have to be willing to go beyond normal. And how much have we tried to stuff ourselves into the little box to fit to, all the, sorry, it's like really loud thundering here. So sorry if you can hear that. But we've tried to create our life by doing what everyone else says while being so dynamically different and abnormal. So would we be willing to set ourselves free to be as abnormal, unusual, beyond as we truly be, and stop trying to match what everybody else says we're supposed to match? Like, how much more fun would we be having in our lives right now if we were willing to turn it up instead of always trying to turn us down? So anybody want to have it? I say yes. So anything to add to that, or any else? Even, I think we've covered all the specialties, but if you have another question or another example, I love stories. Like, I love the story you told, Glenna, and just to hear how it's actually the pragmatics of how it's worked. So anything, Diva.
You know what I find, I don't know how good my internet connection is, by the way, so just tell me if I cut out, but I always found it so interesting, like when I was kind of in the corporate world and just the world, how to ask a question was always considered something that was confrontational. Like, if you ask a question, you're questioning someone or you're questioning a belief, but always from the point of view of some kind of judgment behind it, like, just in case you can't trust it, in case it doesn't work, in case that person's lying, or to find something wrong. And what I loved about coming to some of these tools, and especially with regards to the work with X-Men, which is kids, adults that have OCD, ADHD, autism, and a ton of other different labels, was that actually the question is literally, it's never to find an answer, like we've said, but also it really is about empowering you. So it's not about going around and questioning everyone and asking those questions. Sure, it can be that, but to me it was so valuable to know that I could ask myself these questions and start to get these different awarenesses of what it was that was going on. And one of my favorite questions is, what are you perceiving? Which is something that we're not really taught. We're taught a question, what are you feeling? What are you thinking? And it's always this kind of very solid thing, like, what are you feeling, so we can fix it? What are you thinking, so that we can make that better for you, or we can find the solution to that? But with the X-Men and with so many people in the world, we're so aware and we're picking up so much information from the world around us. I mean, it's literally been floating around us with the internet. And so it's so easy to pick up information, not know where it's coming from. So when you ask the question, what are you perceiving? You're taking it from being your problem and something that's part of you to something outside of you that you can look at more objectively from a bigger picture and go, oh, I'm actually probably perceiving, my parents' stress, or that everyone in this country has this perspective, or that my school teacher is, really sad right now, but it starts to get you to acknowledge what it is that's true for you, and also takes things away from being a problem, because it's not about, to me, it's never about confronting like someone or something with a question, which is what this reality, this world, society tells you it's about. But it's really more about like confronting any fixed point of view that you have, or any limitation, so that you can actually start to get free of anything that's keeping you stuck. And to me, that's magical and huge. And it's so simple as well, that it's so easy to discard it and just say, oh, well, I'll ask that question, you know, on Monday or after I've watched another episode of Game of Thrones, or, you know, whatever, rather than recognizing you can like just do it right now with yourself. Just start to ask yourself the questions that would empower you as well without having to wait for anybody to do it.
Amazing.
And can I add, jumping off of, you know, as Diva was talking about, getting information from everywhere. With Right Body for You, when I first started acknowledging that I had a body and then asking my body questions, so many people think asking your body questions is simply, what do you want to eat? What do you want to wear? Who do you want to shag? But your body is always giving you information. And so when I ask my body questions, and I invite people to ask body questions of like, body, what are you telling me? It opens up a whole world of information. You know, it's like, this person's sad, this person's angry, this person is in pain. Oh yeah, the earth is having an earthquake right now, or is about to have an earthquake, or, you know, how the animals are, or even any thought, feelings, and emotions. So letting your body give you information, asking your body questions of, body, what are you telling me, is so far beyond body, what do you want to eat? Body, what do you want to wear? And body, who do you want to shag? There's a whole world of information that your body gives you if you're willing. So just the question, body, what are you telling me, can shift pain, can shift fidgetiness, can shift uncomfortable, can shift being anxious in your skin, a number of things. So just body, what are you telling me, opens up a whole different world of possibilities as well.
This is huge, Danielle. This is huge because, you know, we're like, when something is with the body, most people freak out. It's like, it must be a problem. It must be something wrong. You know, like something hurts, something is tense. We immediately go to something wrong. So I love the Right Body tools. You know, any like body question, just like, oh my God, it doesn't have to be a problem. I don't have to go into worry right away. I can actually look, maybe it's even a possibility. Wow. So I, like, me personally, super grateful for them. Yeah.
Oh, me too, because it stops defining what they're telling us as pain or uncomfortable, because we think it's that thing, but it's so much else. So it shifts pain. I'm a fan. Right Body for You, obviously. Asking the body questions.
And would all of us be willing to acknowledge that we actually know? So we've had a lot of points of view put on us that there's the experts, there's the people who have the answers, and we're supposed to give up what we know in favor of what the experts, the educated ones, the whatever, what they know. Would we be willing to acknowledge that we actually know, number one, and number two, that energy is our very, very first language. Before we ever speak a word, we come in to this planet knowing the language of energy. And so when we ask questions, we're actually just, I'm going to say, returning to that natural state of wonder, of curiosity, of knowing that we actually already are, that we we're taught out of. So asking questions is just the invitation to go back to our natural beingness of perceiving, of knowing, of being and receiving. So questions is actually the invitation to that space that you actually function in and as, which is amazing. So, but right, do the happy dance. So before I move to something else, anybody else want to add? And let me just say to all of you who are listening to this conversation, you can ask questions. So if there is, you can't ask them out loud, but if you do have something you want to ask about, just type it in the chat and one of us will read it out and one of us or some of us will respond to it. So please know we would love to include anything you'd like to know in this conversation.
So, hi, Marnie, I'd just like to add to the knowing. I love what you said. So it's funny because we often, we either know, right? Or we're pretending we know, or denying that we don't know. So knowing is part of what we have as an infinite being. And we do have the awareness when we ask questions that's there. And when Danielle was talking about the body, that is, you know, we go to the problem of the body all the time. Our kids go to the problems with their bodies. They're sick. Oh my God. We hurt ourselves. We have a pain. And one of my favorite questions with that is just truth. Is this a problem? Yes or no? And you're looking for yes or no, which we haven't really talked about. Like one of the time, sometimes when you ask questions, it's you want to feel what's lighter or perceive the lightness of the information you get or the awareness you get. And the one that's heavy is the lie, and the one that's light is true for you. So if you ask, is this a problem? And you get, whew, no, that's light. It's not a problem. And I have to say, with my kids and in my physical therapy practice and people I've seen, the number of times I've ever got it actually was a problem was twice. And both of those times were a broken bone. So it wasn't really a problem. It just required some work for mom that I probably wasn't really into that night because emergency rooms were required.
I love that, and I've used that.
Yeah.
You've told me that one, and I actually
Yeah.
used it last week when my little 20-year-old friend called me freaking out because she was drunk and she just knew she needed to call an ambulance and blah blah. This is happening, that's happening, and I was like, all right, truth. I didn't say it out loud, but just truth. Body is their problem. Does she need assistance? No, we're good. So I was like, you're fine. Go to sleep. Lay down. But I love that because there is. You ask the question, then there's the energy that you perceive of the knowing what we know.
Yeah.
And
What
just
do you know? That can just be the question. Go ahead, Sylvia.
I just to piggyback, you know, here representing Joy of Business, I have been creating a business and not acknowledging it for quite some time. And so it's like, I don't know anything about business has been my thing in many different areas. And yet, wow, that so closes up any possibility of me acknowledging, recognizing, or tapping in. It's like, how many of us in all areas of our life are we saying, I don't know? So if you could just switch that, one of the things I started to switch in the invitation with Joy of Business, like, well, what do I know actually? You know, that actually may be something totally different than anyone around me. Like the way we each create is so different, yet we're looking to either, you know, mimic someone because we see them be successful or them do something. But what if the question could be now, what do I know? So if you catch yourself, I don't know, what if you could just switch it? Well, okay, what do I know? Even if it's as small as it can be, but could really begin to open up possibilities and, you know, new choices. So just wanted to add that.
Thank you. Linda, did you have something that you wanted to share?
I wanted to share that before I really started using, like, asking questions, I was so much in my mind that it was, and also it was really stressful. It created this stress, like trying to find the right answer or whatever. And with using the tools and asking questions, it, as everyone said, it's like open up the space of infinite possibility and awareness. And I also wanted to bring in like asking questions of the earth, or when you're like perceiving different energies, like asking, or we had talked about even with the body, if there's a certain sensation or whatever, is the possibility that it could be the earth as well. So it's opened up this space of just kind of being right here in your mind. And then it's just like the whole universe, all the molecules, everything being in communion with everything, and having the awareness and information available through question is incredible. So I just wanted to add that.
Yes, thank you for adding. And I have to say, I started off by saying, you know, that what I like about taking the Access Consciousness specialty classes with these facilitators is you get their knowing and the way that they've used the tools and filtered them and the experience and what they've created with their life. And this conversation is such a brilliant example of that. Like every single one of you and what you're contributing is just phenomenal. So I just have to interject a thank you for that. Marja, go ahead.
See, I always raise my hand like in school. So that's why I wanted to say thank you. Marnie, I wanted to go back to what you said about being the energy. I'm also representing here being you, speciality. So, well, with we are all like what you said, when we come into this world, we are being that energy, that space of the question, of the wonder, and then we are slowly taught out of it or just shut down. And that was actually for me, like I was saying in the beginning, I was that energy of wonder and asking all the time, asking and wondering and wanting to know more. and then that enthusiasm as well. And when I got shut down, actually, when I lost my voice, or I shut down my voice and I shut down me, I was like, do you mean like I can't be me? So I went out of being the question. And that is the thing that when I came to Access, when I got to the tools, and especially with the Being You tools, and the energy of being you, I was actually got the permission to be me again, to ask questions, to be in that wonder, to really to be. Because that was, and all kids, if you see them, they're actually being that energy of the question, of the wonder, of the possibilities. And that is what I'm so grateful for, with the tools and with everything here and with all of you. I'm so grateful. So thank you.
Thank you for that. And you know, I've been looking at this whole thing of kind of what you just said. So we come in with that being, that energy that we've been talking about, and then we get trained out of it. And so we develop this navigation system, and like the specifics of your navigation system and mine might be a little different, but we take the environment we're in, we take what the adults in our world are telling us, we take all of whatever's occurring, and we are brilliant. And so we figure out what we need to do and who we need to be and how we need to act, you know, to avoid the landmines and to sidestep this, and so we get really good at reading all of the elements and the people in our universe. And we are so good at this navigation system that gets us through all of it, right? We get through this thing and we do okay with it, but there's always something that's like, yeah, but where am I in this equation? Where did I go in this equation? And so really the 4 elements of creation, question, choice, possibility, contribution, all of that is like, what if that was your new navigation system? What if you let go of everything that you've created and clung to navigate and survive the world that you survived, and you went, I've always known something else is possible. So what if I, like, you know, burn that GPS, smash it with a sledgehammer, you know, whatever you would be fun to do to get rid of that navigation system, tell it thank you, because it got you right here today. But then say, now what if I changed my navigation system to question, to choice, to possibilities, to contribution? And this whole conversation has been about questions. So what if we started there with, I may not know exactly how to get from here over here, but I'm willing to start wherever I am. I'm willing to make the choice. And what if that first choice is simply, I'm going to ask questions. I'm going to, and so I would love to ask all of the specialties. Lauren, you can go after this, and and then, but what would you like to add to that? Or what's a pragmatic way where you do start to go from that navigation system you know so well to actually living and being the question? Lauren,
That's exactly what I wanted to just share an example. The other day, I'm going to Sydney for Dane's class, Being You, Changing the World, tomorrow. And I have 2 3-year-old children, twins. So I was like, okay, do I bring one of them, both of them, my whole family, my husband? Like, what do I want to do here? So I was like, I'll just ask them. So I was like, I asked my daughter, I'm like, Ayla, do you want to come to Sydney with mommy? And she's like, no. And I was like, okay. And I was like, asked my husband, you know, would you like to come to Sydney? And he went into his head. He was like, oh, you know, how much it's going to cost? And he wasn't like giving me an answer. Okay. And I was like, asked my son, do you want to come to Sydney with mommy? He goes, yeah. So I was like, okay. So I'm bringing him and not the other 2. But it was such a great example for me of, you can hear them, they just woke up. Choice, you know, ask a question and choose. And it didn't take it took my husband a long time because he was using his brain, but the kids knew right away. They just knew what to choose. Like, it was like, hey, do you want to come? Yeah. You know, my daughter, no. My son, yeah. And that was it. And I was like, wow, that's really all it takes is ask a question, choose. And I asked them a couple more times, you know, because they live in 10 seconds, they might change their mind. And, you know, it was still a no and a yes. But like, I just love the simplicity of how kids choose.
Yeah. And the simplicity, like you said, we've made it so hard, and it really can be so ease and joy and simple. And actually, when you're looking, one of the things I like to do when I'm asking for something different in my life is I'll ask the question, where does this energy actually already exist? Because it's right now it's out here. I can perceive that I'd like something different, but I can't really actually quite get it yet. So where is that energy in the world right now? And then certain things will pop and I'll go, oh, it's that. Oh, it's there. Oh, cool. Now I sort of get a sense of what it is and I can ask for more of that in my world. And I would say looking at kids before they buy into the trying to navigate the world, they have that sense of wonder. They have that sense of curiosity. They have that sense of play and fun. So how much can we have gratitude for that and invite that space of those tiny little beings into our world and asking more questions and curiosity and wonder. So anything
yeah,
else?
I love this conversation. And you know, what's great is like, I'm part of so many specialties and just being here with you guys, I've gotten so much out of this. So thank you for creating this. One thing I love about what Gary Douglas, the founder, always talks about is, you know, when you are willing to actually ask questions with no expected outcome, no results, you are going to have choices. You're going to have different possibilities that are popping up. And when you choose, like Lauren said, it actually is 10 seconds. And I think for me, it took me a while to figure that out because it is like most of us in this reality, we were taught if you make this choice, you kind of have to use this choice for the rest of your life. But no, try it. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, ask another question. Maybe you do change it. Maybe you do the opposite. But you actually have infinite choices that become available with one question. One question. And then you've got these infinite possibilities. So what possibilities are available here I haven't even considered or chosen? You know, what I love about the Bowmans, they talk about, they say, what possibilities are available here with revenue attached to them? Because like Elena said earlier, I think we're so anxious and so excited about going out there and changing the world. We're so excited about adding more to our lives. And I think one thing we forget is to ask for the money, ask for the revenue, ask for ways that it can actually sustain itself and continue to grow. So whether that's your business, your classroom, whatever it is that you're adding to your life. And then the contribution part, I think a lot of times we think contribution means we have to give something to someone, that gifting and receiving. But one of the things I loved this weekend that Gary talked about in New York was it's the energy you're willing to be that is actually consciousness. And is that gifting and receiving of consciousness simultaneously with no point of view. So how many of you guys are actually asking questions, have choices, you have possibilities, and you are being a contribution, but you haven't maybe even acknowledged it? And we probably don't. We acknowledge maybe one teeny tiny bit of billions of things that we're actually being and doing. So like, I love this questions, choice, possibilities, and contribution. And if you're willing to even ask that, like Marnie said earlier, like take away this GPS system you've already created for yourself and be in that space. Like, what else could open up for you in your life? What else could open up for you in your life and your business and your family?
If I could just add to that, Lale, when I first started, when I looked at those 4 elements, contribution, oh sure, I'm willing to contribute everywhere. But it was always from here out there that actually just this weekend in the New York class, I really got how much I'm not included in that and how much I'm actually not receiving, which surprised me because I actually consider myself that I receive quite a bit. So what else is available? But this sense of like, wow, the universe, consciousness is so willing and happy to contribute to us. So in that contribution, there is the gifting of contribution and there's also the receiving. And it's not always, you know, tangible in the sense of you might not see it specifically, but how much more would we all be willing to actually receive the contribution from consciousness, from the universe, that we haven't perhaps ever knew that it did have our backs. It has more gifts than we're probably willing to receive in the moment. So for me, that was a big aha. It's like, oh, contribution isn't one way. It's that gifting and receiving. So I say, let's turn it up.
I say let's turn it up, and I'm gonna say that we might just turn this into like 3 more calls for whoever would like to join, because we really covered question a lot, but there's 3 more elements that we just started touching on. So whoever's up for more, I'm up for more. I love this conversation so much. And I just want to say thank you to all of you that have joined us. Thank you to all of you facilitators. Every time I get on a call with facilitators in Access, I'm just blown away with gratitude and at the brilliance and the contribution and the everything that you all be. So thank you for that. And I do want to say we will send out the replay, and we actually may turn this into a Kajabi course that, you know, people can have in the future as well. We'll post it in Facebook so that you can have access to the recording there. And just really quickly, Gary did a contribution call, which really is what sparked this whole creation. I don't know, last week, week before. And he talked about contribution. And it's funny because people have gone to the money aspect of it, but if you really listen to the call, what he really clearly says is contribution. You want to, he was asking for contribution. He was just straight up asked, I would like to ask for your contribution. And he proceeded to say contribution is when you're choosing more and you're being more and you're asking for more and you're choosing consciousness and you're inviting consciousness and you're being consciousness. That's what contributes. That's actually what he was asking all of us to do and be, is step up into choosing the more that's available and to be aware of what we're choosing literally every second of the day. And is this contributing to consciousness or not? And choosing that which does. That's what he was asking for. And from that space, if it's fun to contribute money for you, you can do that. And there is a link. We'll post it here and we'll put it in the follow-up email. So if that's, but I would really ask that you look at that and don't do it because it's the right thing to do. Do it because from the energy of contribution, it would be fun for you. And otherwise, then don't. So thank you. Super grateful. And we'll send out more details for the next one on choice. We'll see where we go. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Marnie.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye,
Bye.
guys.